Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. And wow, things are a little bit crazy here, but you'll find out about that here soon enough. Welcome into another edition of the program. I hope all of you are well, all of you are happy, and you are ready for another hour of the Computer America Show. So let's get things started here. By the way, today's guest, as soon as we, manage to, get them on the line, we are working behind the scenes to do that as soon as possible. But joining us is a company called Mighteor. There we go. And yeah, this is this is going to be super important because obviously, they do a lot of great work with helping kids develop through games. And hey, it's being able to put things into games and reach a younger audience is super important. And they have a lot of great studies. This is started by a bunch of doctors, and hey, it could be something that you could turn maybe someone that onto. So again, hopefully today we will be interviewing Mighteor. I keep saying Mighteor, Mighteor. So like mighty, but So Mighteor, and but before we get to that, a few things, including computeramerica.com. That is the super important website to remember, because it has everything from the show notes, which are links or any articles or videos that we do during computer and technology news. You can find that in one place. Hey, it could be just what you're looking for. Also, be sure to check out, of course, right here. Be sure to check out computeramerica.com for our contest. So every single Friday, we will have a winner, and we'll read their name live on the air. And hey, we could be reading your name and awarding you a great prize from Logitech. And then the last thing is a live video portion where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. Just another way to experience the show. All right, so I'm sorry, everyone, we normally do this before, but we're going to try to get our guest on from Mighteor. And so here we go. And let's see if this works. So.
Hello, this is Jason.
Hello, Jason. Welcome on to the Computer America Show. I apologize for the technical troubles, but hi, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. So yeah, we've already started, and I was just telling everyone that you are the co-founder for NeuroMotion Labs, and more specifically, what we're going to be talking about here today, which is Mighteor. So yeah, and sorry for being so abrupt, but why don't we just jump into this? And so everyone, Dr. Jason Kahn, and could you give us, Jason, just a quick rundown of what is NeuroMotion Labs, how it relates to Mighteor, and a little bit of your background. How did you get involved in all this?
Okay, sounds good. I think I'll start with those, maybe working in reverse order, because background sort of flows into how we decided to start NeuroMotion and then build Mighteor.
Sure.
So I'm a PhD in developmental psychology, and really found myself about 10 years ago. I came into the psychiatry clinic at Boston Children's Hospital, and basically was working with this great team and realizing that we have really all these problems in how we reach kids, and that when we look at our offices, really for every one kid that came in, there were 3 more kids out there who were not getting any help. And the kids that we were reaching were only the most severe, and there were many other families and many kids who they didn't need full-blown psychiatry services, but they could use a little bit of extra help. So what we did is, we looked around, we tried to figure out how we could engage kids, how we could help them, how we could help families, and ended up building a set of video games that use what we call bioresponsive technology. And at that point, we were at Harvard in Boston Children's Hospital, so we did the academic thing. We studied them, and pretty quickly learned that we were having these really positive impact on kids, but also their families, and that really led me and the team to figure out, okay, well, how can we get our ideas out there? How can we make them more accessible to the families who actually need them? And with that in mind, we decided that we were going to leave the academic world and start building NeuroMotion to get that out so that we would have a space to really make our ideas widely available, so that it would be available to everyday families. It'd be available immediately. You wouldn't have to come into the hospital to actually get access to this technology.
Right.
And we were, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, and I'm sure we'll get further into the story here as we continue along. But this is something obviously I don't have any kids myself, but there are many people out there that do, and maybe don't know that games such as yours exist, or even you said that you started out with services that were kind of in-person counseling, therapy, for their kids. Let's just start with the obvious, and maybe how did you kind of learn that this was such such an underserved kind of community? Because growing up personally, there wasn't a lot of mental health for kids other than maybe in school, guidance counselors and the like. I mean, how prevalent is this? Is this truly an underserved market, or something that you're trying to develop to maybe highlight something?
Oh, this is it's pretty amazing, both by the numbers and then just more personally and anecdotally, how many families and kids are struggling with some sort of behavioral health challenge. So globally, I mean, mental health is one of the leading causes of disability out there. So they're just across the spectrum. There's this huge need. There are probably 23-ish million kids in the United States alone that have some mild symptoms of ADHD or anxiety. They don't need full-blown psychiatric or psychological services, but they would absolutely benefit from some support. And that's 25% of the kids out there. And then on top of that, there are about 6 million kids who have what we call clinically significant symptoms. And these are kids who usually you will find them in therapy, and they have more severe either ADHD or anxiety, or think of neurodevelopmental disorders, maybe like autism or things like that.
So tell me how the idea of games, obviously, you're trying to reach a certain audience, with younger people, kids. Games seems like a natural fit, but why did you decide to go into video games? Because there are other mediums. There's of course in-person counseling, but that was pretty impractical, as you found out. There are YouTube videos that you can do. There are books and things like that. Why did you land on video games?
Video games are an amazing environment to let kids practice. So what our games do is they let kids see their own emotions in real time. You play our games with a heart rate monitor, and that's a really good proxy for getting to watch your emotions. And your emotions actually change the behavior of our games as they go. What's amazing about games is that as you get more and more involved in the games, you get more and more intense. You actually see that change in the games, and it can be a really good proxy for life. But the other thing that's really nice about games is that if you fail, you just hit reset and you start again, and you get to try out a new strategy. And for kids who are struggling, that's not a tool that they have every day. So you don't get to hit your brother and then try a different strategy and then see if that works or not. So it's a really nice, having the games and having that reset button to try over and over and over again is a really nice proxy for kids.
That's very, very well said. Why don't we, and you've piqued my interest, so it sounds like there's a heart rate monitor. There's obviously going to be an app of some sort. Why don't you do a little step-by-step for how the game actually works and how someone would go about using it for a session?
Yeah, absolutely. So we think about our product in two parts. And so if you're a kid and you're coming into our products, that means your parents have purchased it for you. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to put on a heart rate monitor, and the heart rate monitor is going to be watching your heart rate as you play, and you're going to get to pick from a library of games. We have 10 games right now. We're constantly adding them. We'll be at dozens by the end of the year. And so it's watching your heart rate monitor, and you're playing a game, and all of a sudden, the game challenge is ramping up. Picture, trying to think, like of one of the games that we have on our platform is fairly well known. It's a game called Hundreds, where you have to fill up circles in a very, very deliberate way and try to get 100 on the screen. And as you get closer, it's tighter and tighter quarters. It's harder to get the taps in. And so as that tension is ramping up, your heart rate will go up. Well, so what we do in the games, our emotion algorithm is doing in the background is it's working with you, it's working with the game, and it's actually making, as that tension increases and your heart rate goes up, it's making it harder for you to tap on those circles. It's making you harder to find where you want to go. So if you're a kid, what you have to do is you have to learn in the moment, okay, I want to stay really focused on this, but I also want to keep myself calm. And it's, there's that walking and chewing gum aspect of it, of two things at the same time. And you learn how to balance it. And we've given these kids all these different contexts. So if you don't like Hundreds, maybe you're playing Hibachi Hero. If you don't like Hibachi Hero, maybe you're playing Kitty in the Box. But you give all these different contexts you get to play. And you get to see, like, okay, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And then you have all this feedback, and you go farther and farther and farther and farther. And actually, so, kids our in-game measuring stick is called Acorns. And it's pretty amazing to watch kids talk about how many, they get very into how many acorns they've earned and how good they are at using their skills to earn more and more acorns.
Sounds like you've taken a lot of the aspects of, any other video game out there and, really applied it to teaching, these kinds of very, underlying skills that everyone should have a pretty good grasp of and, really honing down on it. And, I think it's a good way to segue into the research because, you mentioned Harvard, you mentioned Boston, the Boston Children's Hospital. Tell us about, how kind of the research that went into creating this, and then how, having the ability to, have Harvard behind you, have access to Boston Children's Hospital, how it kind of helped shape, what the end product.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very lucky. I think that it comes out of the context that we come out of is, starting out, we had access to amazing experts in the realm of psychiatry, the realm of neurology, realm of psychology, and even just getting started, I think, when I think about our final product, it helps us, that expertise helps us understand, like, where are we as a community trying to help families, where are we falling down? And that right off the bat, like, who are we trying to help, where are we going, like, that shapes the product. The other thing that it does is it really gave us a very strong grounding for who we wanted to be. When you put a kid's health in your hands, and this is, the skills that we do, emotional strength is a very important skill for children and for their families. We take that very seriously. And so we have, at this point, we've completed several studies, and we have more that are in progress. And we've always worked to have, this really rigorous data. We do randomized controls design, which is not always the easiest thing to do. And then what's really neat about the studies that we've been able to do is we also have really strong controls for placebo effects. So, you and I talked about the heart rate monitor before. What we can do is when we do our trials, we can actually have kids wear the heart rate monitor and just cut off the communication between the heart rate monitor and the computer, so they don't, or the tablet. So they don't actually know if they're getting the real game or they're getting some sort of, we call it a sham game.
Right.
And, when we compare those two groups, we get to see we get to really see, like, how much of this is, the kid just thought they were getting something because they were wearing this cool device versus the actual process of playing our games. And what we've seen, and now, we're in the midst of repeating this too, but we saw that when we compared the two groups, the biggest finding, the one that was always the most exciting to me, is that the parent stress went down. And if you compare the two groups, it's 10 times bigger of a change in the control group, in the active group versus the control group. When you look at games, especially, and digital health, it's not always clear that if you learn something and you get really good at a game, that it means anything for the rest of your life. So being able to see that is really exciting.
Right.
And then, we saw this kid's symptoms. So there are symptoms of oppositional behavior that went down versus the control group. There are outbursts. Their disruptive behaviors went down versus the control group as well, so 40% and 62% respectively. So these really large, very not just statistically significant, but just really clinically and behaviorally significant changes for the kids. And it's been really powerful to see. And it's been, as we've grown, we have always kept it in our mind of how can we make sure that we're doing right by the families who work with us.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we are now we're now seeing 95% change, positive behavior change in our families. And I think it's, because we have always worked so hard to do right by them.
I'm sure that this is, going to have a snowball effect, later in life, because if they can, kind of work on these very, important behaviors, then obviously learning, later in school or just interacting with others will, again, snowball. It will get better and better, over time. So, but kind of tell us what these results actually mean when it comes to, down the road for kids that they're, you again have here on your website, lower parent stress. That's obvious, the parents for dealing with kids that have frequent, emotional outbursts, things like that. Less stress for the parents means a better environment altogether, but, decreases oppositional behavior and reduces outbursts by 40 and 62%. What does that mean for the kid later in life? Is that better schooling? Is that better relationships? What are you really trying to build on here?
Well, you sort of hit the nail on the head. I think that, another one of our powerful results was that when we worked with kids in school who were having trouble staying in the classroom, we found, the population of kids we worked with, they were leaving the classroom 6 times a week when we started and 2 times a week after just 6 weeks of working with us and our intervention. And you could play it through, right? So these kids are staying in the classroom more. They have better control. That better emotional regulation is helping them stay in the classroom. They're getting more academic time. They're able to keep up with their peers. So this is not only, so they get the academic achievement of staying in their class, but they also get all of that social benefit and none of the, because when you're actually, for these kids, if you put yourself in their shoes, it's really hard when you can't stay in the class, and it's very embarrassing for these kids. So, this isolation, it all builds up. So versus that, these kids are building self-esteem, they're building the belief that they can do it, and they're building really positive social interactions with their friends and their family. And so this is all in benefit to the addition to the academic benefits that come from staying in the classroom. Now, with that said, we're learning much, much more about this as we go along. There's all sorts of research that precedes us about all these amazing things that come with emotional regulation. Like you said, so better achievement, better long-term relationships. Actually, it's even crazy. Even lower BMI is associated with increased
Really?
emotional regulation skills. So there are all these, in terms of everything that you could want for your kids. And I have 2 kids, so it's really tied up in this emotional regulation skill.
Right. No, it sounds super interesting that you're going to get a lot of these things that don't seem related at first, but obviously as you develop, you realize, hey, this is going to have impact, far-reaching, and I'm glad that you're definitely finding that. Let's talk about this program because I'm sure there's one way to go about it where you sit your kid in front of a screen for 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you say, learn emotional balance. And, that
Right.
probably wouldn't work. So talk about, I'm reading here on your website, 45 minutes, 12 weeks. What kind of program and why did you kind of shape it around, what time scale and what time scale are the sessions and why did you kind of shape it around that?
Yeah, well, the quickest answer is that we wanted to do something that we knew could work not just for the kid but for the entire family. So, when you come into our program, we built something. We knew that this time of 45 minutes a week for 12 weeks was something that would lead to these positive behavior changes for kids. The other thing that happens when you walk into our program is that we do a lot of work to make sure that we are including the entire family on the journey. So the parents are getting, so there's the kid piece of playing these games, but the parents are also getting broken up over that 12-week journey. They're getting coaching support from our staff who are, they're trained social workers. They are experts in the field. we have this dashboard, so you can actually watch your kid as they grow and they go through the program. And then we have brought parents into this private community, which we've just found that for a lot of these parents, it can be very, very isolating to have, to try to figure out how to help kids with these challenges. And within that community, having our experts and then other families just to share your journey with them, it can be a really powerful experience. So we've got the games for the kids and then the community for parents.
Right, and that I'm sure is super important as well, because not every parent out there. I mean, I know that personally, I have never been trained in something like this, and I'm sure a lot of parents out there, I'm sure, are going into this just as unknowing as their kids. So having that support there, very, very good to hear. You're not just throwing throwing people a tool and saying figure it out. You're actually providing the support for using the tool. So very, very important. And just as a personal thing, is there a point at which a kid can kind of sit back and say, I've beaten this game, or I've beaten these exercises? Like, is there like an end screen, or is this something that the difficulty will increase XYZ? And there's always room for improvement. Yeah.
I would almost turn the question back on you, and basically, I asked myself this, but do you ever feel like you've reached a point where you handle every situation that comes your way
Never
perfectly?
Right.
And so I think that, and this is the world that we're building for kids. It's that there is room, even after you get through the 12-week program, you haven't gotten to a game over screen. You're definitely more confident. You are definitely pulling out the skills that you're learning in the game and applying them in your life, and there's a lot of pride around that. But there's also, there's always room for growth. There's always room to be stronger. Is by way of metaphor, there's always a faster mile time if you're a runner.
Right. No, absolutely. And, very, very cool. So what age ranges? Because, this is obviously, kind of targeted at kids and things like that. What age ranges would you say most benefit from this program?
So we work right now with kids ages 6 to 14. And that is mostly just governed by the games that we have right now. So we have the 10 games right now, and we're growing at one a month. And, the concept itself is much more broadly applicable, but we found that we get the best results with kids in that age range.
Very interesting. I mean, we've had companies such as Lumosity. I know that they're more brain training, brain exercise kind of things, but we've had them on the show before, and this idea that you can develop useful life skills through small exercises that you can sit down and kind of easily digest. Very, very cool that you are also taking this and applying it to kids. So I definitely like that. Now, in a lot of these photos on your website, everyone, if you want to check it out, again, there's a link in in the show notes directly to it. But neuromotionlabs.com/Mighteor, is one way to get to it. But or just the website, or just the .com. But all of them have these wristbands, these heart rate monitors and the tablets. So tell us about that. Is that provided through the program when you kind of purchase it, or do people kind of have to bring their own device?
No, so when you purchase the program right now, we are sending out, it includes a heart rate monitor, it includes a device, it includes a tablet. We are currently right now working on the app version of this thing. So that will, very near future. But right now when you purchase this thing, we are including in that the heart rate monitor and the device and the tablet.
Very, very cool. So, not everything, you don't have to go out and meddle with all those different kind of tablets. Very, very cool that you provide that. So, just tell us how long your team has been kind of working on this, because, again, this doesn't seem like an overnight kind of thing. And how long are you expecting to work on this? Because, now that you're a company, obviously you're looking into the future. How long are you expecting these line of products to be under development?
So this is that's a great question. So it is definitely not something that happens overnight. I've been at this for almost 10 years at this point, between coming out of graduate school and then working at Children's in the lab. We formed Neuromotion in November of last year, and then Mighteor is available today. So that launched in July. So if anybody out there is interested and wants to learn more, they can go to the website. They can get it today. Mm-hmm. For us, it's it's a process. We'll never, I think that I look out and I see, a lot of growth for us. We'll constantly be building our product, making it better, making it more engaging for kids. We will absolutely be growing our science as we go. I think that one of the things that we've noticed is we've worked with some amazing partners, both across North America. We've been lucky enough to partner with school districts in Montreal, hospitals in Utah, you name it. And, we've noticed that we're helping kids, with emotional dysregulation, but that cuts across. That cuts across kids that have ADHD, that cuts across kids with anxiety. And so we want to understand this better. We want to understand how that fits in. So, we will continue. We won't stop with the science on that front either. And then helping a broader base of kids, launching products for kids who are older, kids who are younger. I see a lot of very fun work in front of us as we both grow Mighteor and then think about how more we can overall reach, address this problem of there are a lot of kids who could use just a little bit more emotional support, and what can we do to help in that world?
Yeah, very well said. And we're going to talk about your team here in a moment, but this sounds like not just a tool for parents at home and those like you said that maybe have had a formal diagnosis, or people who just kind of want a little bit more help for their kids. What environments are you kind of seeing? Are you kind of angling this towards? Because this could be in formal treatment facilities. This could be obviously at home, and maybe in schools, and in special programs in schools. I mean, where are you kind of hoping to see this really flourish?
I think that this is just working with families. I see a lot of value in the home, working directly with families. As we grow, absolutely, we will continue to work with schools. We'll continue to work with in-treatment facilities. But it is really striking to me how much our families benefit from a little bit of extra support, and honestly, how lucky we are to have these families working with us. I think that it does the kids a lot of good, and I do think that as I look around, I really do see this gap of if kids need a lot of help, they can find it, and if kids are, they're sort of doing great, then they're off to the races. But it is that gap of who could use just a little bit extra help? What can we do to, give those parents that see a little bit of struggles with their kids, but not necessarily full blown, offer them a little bit of extra tools.
Right. So, and in these last couple minutes, I'll of course let you give a shout out to your team, because no man is an island, and we had the pleasure of talking to a couple of them here behind the scenes. Who else is working on this with you? Because this is not an easy thing to do.
No, I am incredibly lucky to have both an amazing commercialization team working with me and an amazing academic team sitting out here as well. So on the commercialization side, we are lucky enough to have our CEO is named Craig Lund. He is coming at this from, he's been doing a world of good for the past 15 years, starting trying to build a treasury system in Iraq, to then most recently working on solar technology for the past 7 years. Wow. We have Trevor Stricker. Yeah, I know. We have Trevor Stricker, who has been building games for the past 20 years, everything from Fantastic Four to NBA 2K, did a game called Quick Hit Football, which was a mobile, attracted million mobile users, really helping us up our game on making sure that what we release is actually fun. Mm-hmm. Our social work team is unbelievable. So this is led by Dr. Erina White, who's like me, is left Boston Children's Hospital, and she is really building the parent support community out and doing a fantastic job. And then, quick note about my science team. I am lucky enough to have found mentorship from Joseph Gonzalez-Hedrick, who's a psychiatrist running neurodevelopmental psychiatry at Boston Children's, and Alex Rottenberg, who I am sure someday will win a Nobel Prize or come close, is doing neuromodulation over in the Department of Neurology at Boston Children's Hospital. So just fantastic people have always, behind this. And I am lucky to be one on a very big team.
It sounds like it. It sounds like you really have, you know, a lot of great minds working, obviously, on an equally great, you know, kind of goal here. So everyone, you know, the music means we're just about out of time. And Jason Kahn, Dr. Jason Kahn, thank you for coming on Computer America. And this is a pleasure. Everyone, if you want to check it out, computeramerica.com, we have a link and there are testimonials, how to buy it, things like that there. So, Jason, have a great one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here doing, well, we're about to head into computer technology news. We just finished talking to NeuroMotion Labs. That's right. You can check them out. Neuro, N-E-U-R-O, motionlabs.com. And yeah, check out their product, Mighteor. And, you know, obviously for a very specific use case, but one that is super, super important. And happy to have them on. That was very interesting. And by the way, so yeah, and by the way, you can you know, of course, find out more. Like I mentioned, testimonials, how much it is. The entire program is about 3 months long, and hey, you know, something you should definitely check out. So with that being said, let's see. Actually, no, we need to go this way. So before we do our computer and technology news, which is a segment we dedicate to, you know, just the latest in computers, technology, interest piece, and we have a number of them. Before we get to that, we have a message from one of our sponsors, and that is, of course, ZipRecruiter. That's right. So, are you hiring? And do you know where to find the best place to post your job to find the best candidates? And, you know, it's it can be very hard because you can find the right person. They look good on paper, but, you know, they don't exactly match all of your qualifications. Well, hey, check it out. That's where ZipRecruiter comes in. And with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100 plus job sites with just a single click. Then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. And that's why ZipRecruiter is different, where unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Instead, it finds them. And in fact, 80% of employers who post a job to ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate. That's right, through the site in just a single day. Very, very cool stuff. So, no juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place thanks to the ZipRecruiter dashboard. That takes all the guesswork out of it. So, find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes and find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, our listeners can post on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/computer. That's ZipRecruiter.com/computer. And one more time, give it a try and try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/computer. And yeah, you know, we want to say thanks to ZipRecruiter for supporting Computer America. And we hope all of you out there, you know, hey, can maybe find the right hire for the job you may have listed. Check it out, ZipRecruiter.com/computer. So now let's go ahead and move on to computer and technology news as we leave our interview with Mighteor. And we have a number of stories, some updates, some, you know, some otherwise that we should really get to. So here we go, computer and technology news, brought to you by Fire Dragon. All right. So, how about we do? Let's see. There's one I really wanted to do. You know what? I have it here, and this is an update to kind of an entire segment that we had with one of our guests. You know, Fire Dragon Security. As I said, they they are a sponsor of Computer America, but we did a a very interesting piece with with them talking about the recent Equifax hack, how to keep yourself safe, and all that good stuff. And, well, there's an update. And we're talking about, and yes, there's an autoplay video, so we're going to have to be very quick here. And let's see if we can do it. Yep, there we go. All right, so this one is about Equifax and how, turns out, they weren't exactly being straightforward with everyone when you're talking about, well, just how, just how severe this hack was, because, time makes a huge difference. Time is indeed, when it comes to when exactly they were hacked, it shows, how far back everyone was affected, how long they had in the system, and originally they said it only happened, about 8 weeks prior, I believe, was the first report. Well, let's go ahead and read into this article about how Equifax had a data breach months before the big one hit. And yeah, this is coming to us from CBS News, and they're saying that the Equifax data breach in late July that exposed personal information like social security numbers of 143 million Americans reportedly wasn't the first time that the credit monitoring company security systems had been compromised, which you'd think would be the big red flag that said, hey, we need to step up our game because people are gunning for us. Well, news reported yesterday that Equifax learned about a major breach of its computer system in March, some 5 months before the data was previously, before the date it was previously disclosed to the public. March. Ouch. So, Equifax told Bloomberg through a statement that the March breach of business services, a unit, was not related to the July 29th hack that hit nearly half the country's consumers, saying that the incident was reported to customers, affected individuals, and regulators. Still, as Bloomberg report observed, the revelation that the 118-year-old credit reporting agency suffered 2 major incidents in the span of a few months adds to a mounting crisis at the company. So, and he says that they aren't related. At the same time, I would obviously be very, very skeptical of that. It's obviously damage control, but of the situation. But we've seen this with bug hunting bounty programs, that even a very simple hack or bug or kind of security flaw, they compound each other. So as soon as you get through one, as soon as you get through, as soon as you get into a database, you get a way to sneak code in, or you find somewhere that you can do a SQL injection. I mean, like, just little tiny security flaws that they can kind of say, all right, we patched that one. Just because you patched that one doesn't mean that you've patched all the holes. In fact, you can create new ones by trying to fix old ones. And, just the fact that they had one, they could definitely be related, In fact, it could be one had actually led to the other. But obviously Equifax not being very straightforward with their claims and not being completely transparent with, let's face it, they're a credit company that, they're one of the 3 major credit agencies in the country, and almost every single adult in the U.S. has dealt with them, or at least has a file on record with them. It's this is a big deal. So they said that the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, is proposing new state regulations for credit reporting agencies, and that the Democratic governor announced Monday that he's directed the State Department of Financial Services to issue new rules requiring credit reporting agencies to register in New York for the first time and to comply with the state's cybersecurity standards. Makes sense because, these companies, they're a national agency, but, when you're 118 years old, you're probably grandfathered in to, a lot of states that, hey, aren't as strict on older companies. Still, the article goes on for a bit about, a bit about politics and things like that. But some kind of wrap-up points here, saying that the company executives are also under scrutiny, where Equifax CEO has been called to testify before Congress on October 3rd, and that 3 Equifax executives sold about $2 million worth of their shares before the company disclosed the breach. And yeah, that is under Federal Trade Commission scrutiny as well. Hey, they're being investigated for what would essentially be insider trading. And Equifax has said that they had no knowledge of the intrusion had occurred at the time. Yeah, we'll find out about that. And that the stock of the company has fallen about $6 billion since this all happened. And it wraps up with the last one. Again, we highly recommend you go back and check out the segment with Fire Dragon Security just last week. But some things here that they can do, that consumers can do, include closely monitoring your credit report, which are available for free once a year, and stagger them to see one every 4 months. Keep watch, possibly for a long time, because scammers, and this is actually something we're going to start seeing more and more of. Scammers are going to be the true fallout from this data breach. And it's not even so much as they're probably, because they're going to be looking for, banks know that this information is out there now, and they're not really going to be handing out loans, willy-nilly. They're not going to be handing out mortgages left and right due to this compromised, kind of information. Instead, where this is going to come into play is scams with emails and other ways of contacting family. It could even be letters in the mail, by saying that, is your name Ben Crossman? Is this your social security number? And they'll give you your exact social security number. They'll say, is this your address? And, everything will be right because this was all information that was already leaked to the public. They'll be able to take that and cater fraudulent, bank transfers. They'll be able to, try to get you to agree to, credit card applications and services that you don't really need. Things like that. They're going to be catering everything to the information that was stolen. So it's going to look legit and it's going to have the right information. But that doesn't mean that the person behind the mail or the spam or whatever has your best interest at heart. So that's going to be the big one. And especially for older folks, who maybe wouldn't be so savvy and kind of take it for granted. Yeah, really gonna have to keep an eye and monitor this. And, they say the last one is consider freezing your credit reports, and that stops thieves from opening new credit cards or loans in your name, but it also prevents you from opening new accounts. So this is something that can be done. You can go to each one, and you can, for like $5 to $10 a piece, you can freeze your credit. Definitely recommend that you do that. But again, it's probably not so much that as much as it is the highly customized spam that people are probably going to start receiving here in the next couple of years. It's this is a huge deal. So there you have it. And Equifax hit with a second data breach months before they disclosed this first one. All right. So let's get to some of the other stories, some that aren't quite as depressing. And how about this one? All right. So we got this one here. This is about iOS 11. It's available for download starting today, and it comes with a number of features. Now, mainly I would, kind of tell people to update as soon as possible, but that refers more to the interim minor patches that you find on your phone. So iOS 11, like let's take maybe iOS 10.3.1.1. Something of that nature. and you're sitting there on iOS 10.3.0.0, yeah, definitely update, and definitely update as soon as possible, because those are security fixes. And that's something very, very important. But for these large ones, you, of course, want to stay up to date as fast as possible, but just be forewarned that these large content updates can make older devices run slower and more sluggish. And it's something that you should really consider, that, you know, at least for the first couple of weeks, that if you update, if you upgrade, things are going to change, and change in a big way. The smaller updates, they're security, they're patch fixing, and, you know, hey, you can, you know, you should install those as soon as possible. This one, you should definitely go into, you know, a little bit more wary. So here we have it, saying that iOS 11 is here, and with improved multitasking and of course alternate reality. And yeah, so this coming to us from Engadget, Mr. Steve Dent. And with multitasking, ARKit, and more AI smarts, iOS 11 is one of Apple's biggest iOS updates yet. Right. And it just started rolling out around the world, so don't be surprised to see a message on your iPhone or iPad soon. So, and saying that if you've been procrastinating, now would be a good time to back up your phone, videos, and other precious data, as past iOS updates have been buggy and have gone less smooth. Because, yeah, you know, when you, even in a closed ecosystem such as Apple, updating devices, you know, and updating firmware can still be quite problematic. So definitely back up your phone, you know, but you should be doing that anyways. Anyways, warnings aside, the author says you're probably going to like it, especially if you have an iPad Pro and use it to do work, where iOS 11's marquee feature is better multitasking with a Mac OS style dock at the bottom of your screen that lets you seamlessly switch between apps to run two side by side. It's a pretty common feature on most computers and desktops. Cool to see that they have it for iPads now. Apple is also keying in AI with iOS 11 and artificial intelligence, with a better, more natural sounding version of Siri and Core ML machine learning for developers. Also important. So, kind of cool there. It will also usher in the age of augmented reality on iPhones with ARKit, ARKit, or simply ARKit. And though the app is mostly just useful for developers, you'll soon get games and apps that use the technology, and what we've seen so far looks promising. So it's this is something that, again, Apple, as we discussed with Sandy Berger last week, Apple is playing catch up in a lot of respects, and augmented reality and virtual reality is one place that Apple hasn't really, been the forefront of. But at any rate, saying that another feature that takes advantage of the new smarts and sensors is animated emojis. Seems silly, but it's a pretty good proof of concept to show how powerful these phones are. And it basically maps your face in real time and transfers your expressions to the character. And that only works on the iPhone X, the iPhone 10. I should stop saying X. The iPhone 10, since it requires the dedicated front-facing depth sensor. That's right, the sensors are only available through the anniversary edition of the phone. So there's a lot more, including things like screenshots during FaceTime calls, a do not disturb setting for driving, and a blue banner that shows when the app tracks your location. So now back to the nagging, saying that remember that your install could take a while, and hey, be ready for a rather lengthy install process. And they said that if Apple stays true to form, it should arrive around 1 p.m. Eastern sometime today. So, hey, sometime around this, this show, your iPhone should let you know that there's an update available. But there you have it. iOS 11, it's a pretty big content update. Seems to be more for developers than it is for the average consumer. But hey, the tools go out to the developers, and then they're picked up by the consumers through different kinds of products. So very, very cool. Check that out. Should be receiving that here soon. All right. Now, let's see. All right, here's another interesting one. And yeah, we'll have time for this one and maybe one more after. But this was an interesting story because it's always been one of the gripes of course, speaking of AR and VR, like we have been, this has been one of the biggest gripes about virtual reality for a while. And it's the idea of not only do you have to buy the virtual reality kit, which at this point has come down in price significantly. It recently, like the HTC Vive, which we're going to be talking about, recently saw a price slash from $800 down to $600. So, 25%, that's not bad, and a permanent reduction. But the idea that you also had to have a high-end personal computer, it was, it was a pretty big barrier to entry. Well, now it seems like there may be a solution that brings VR, maybe not to everyone, but makes it a little bit more attractive. And HTC Vive ditches the PC thanks to China's cloud VR service. And here we have it, saying that one of the main obstacles, like we said, was building the high-end VR system. And obviously, by slashing the prices, this barrier has, kind of come down as well. And over the weekend, HTC announced its partnership with Dalian Television and Beijing Cyber Cloud to launch the world's first cloud VR service for a commercial trial in Dalian, a city not far from North Korea. So obviously not rolling out everywhere, but still something to take note of. So rather than tethering a Vive system to a PC, it'll instead be hooked up to a set-top box with a 60 megabytes per second broadband connection, plus access to virtual reality content from HTC's very own Vive port. So that's pretty cool. So they're replacing the dedicated computer with a set-top box that will deliver content at 60 megabytes per second and deliver to the Vive. It's pretty cool. Obviously, the infrastructure is not there for everyone, but it's a pretty interesting move. Saying that in addition to the obvious cost-cutting benefits, having your VR content rendered in the cloud means that users won't ever have to deal with drivers nor downloads, thus saving time as well as reducing hassle. And according to HTC Vive China President Alvin Wang Graylin, saying that by paying a deposit of just $455, which still sounds like a lot, but by paying about $455 plus a monthly fee of about $76, it's expensive. Users can already bring an HTC Vive plus the set-top box home and get unlimited access to VR content. See, and like $76 a month, that's like a cable bill. That's pretty much what it boils down to. And that's like a US cable bill. That's I really don't know the average cable price for, someone in China, but I don't think virtual reality is replacing cable in so much as it's an entirely different experience. Like, you're never going to fully replace actual reality with virtual reality. But they said that better yet, they can terminate at any time, saying that alternatively, consumers can pay a lump sum of about $1,000 and get full ownership of the Vive kit plus a 1-year subscription. So let's see, 12 times, folks, we're about to do some math here, and it's gonna hurt. 12 times 7, $70. It's closer to 80, but whatever, $70. Let's call that, $840 plus the actual deposit of the so the HTC Vive, about $600, and then you're saving probably a bit in the long run, because obviously you're not renting, you are straight out purchasing. But I don't know, it's both options seem very, very expensive, and something that VR, because we said this before, that you needed a $1,000 computer plus the HTC Vive just to kind of get started, and then you had to buy your own games. Maybe this is more attractive, but I don't know if it is. At any rate, leaving these concerns aside, it'll be interesting to see how well this commercial trial fares. If successful, this will be an effective way to vastly lower the barrier for high-end VR systems. And who knows, with such cloud VR technology paired up with upcoming 5G connectivity, our world's probably not far off from the wacky Ready Player One reality. And there you have it. You know, it's and you know, don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool. I think VR is definitely a technology that has possibility, but even these prices, you know, at $75 a month for some kind of subscription service, i.e., you know, just getting the content that you want, and then even beyond that, tethering it to a, you know, the monthly subscription or buying it for $1,000. I don't know. These prices are still, I really do feel like, outside of many people's, you know, kind of impulse purchase, or even something that they would purposely purchase, because it's not going to replace anything that they currently have in their home. You know, it's not like, oh, well, I'm going to buy a VR and it's going to, you know, I'm no longer going to pay for cable. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be an addition to, and I don't think people are ready for another large bill alongside what they already have. And then even beyond that, 60 megabits per second makes sense in a lot of places, but maybe not even here in the US, because that is certainly almost double or whatever. It's more than the average speed in the US here. So a lot of hurdles, a lot of barriers, and we'll see what happens. All right, so why don't we go ahead and go to... All right, this one's quick and easy. Now, there's, of course, more stories at computeramerica.com. You can check it out. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough time, but I did want to get this one in. And, you know, Twitter, Facebook, social media in general, they have a problem. And they have a problem with people and accounts. It's kind of 50-50 because they are private companies. They are, you know, you can't say that they have any kind of job to purposely police their service. You know, they can provide the tools, and the tools can be used in any manner of ways. But people are putting more and more pressure on social media to take that hardline stance against certain forms of communication. And one of the most obvious ones would be terrorism or terror related. And turns out Twitter, they're showing off their numbers and showing that they are taking a stance. And this coming from an article from Engadget, Ms. Mallory Locklear, saying that Twitter suspended over 935,000 terror-related accounts since 2015. And that it suspended just under 300,000 during the first half of this year alone. So they're getting better at it. And this was a blog post today about its twice yearly transparency report, and that Twitter outlined some numbers regarding its actions against accounts linked to terrorism. Because that's certainly a thing. You know, Twitter, social media, Facebook, they have been used as one of the most effective recruiting tools by these organizations. And they said that those included accounts that actively incite or promote violence associated with intentionally recognized terrorist organizations, promote international, and accounts attempting to evade prior enforcement. So it's people who promote terrorism, who are associated with terrorism, and those that have been found to be, you know, new accounts that were previously punished under those guidelines. So again, some numbers: 300,000 in the first half of this year. 75% were taken down before they were even tweeted, and that this year's account suspensions are down slightly from the second half of 2016. So, you know, and full report obviously over at twitter.com. You can check that out. But everyone, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Thank you for checking out our program. We appreciate that you take time out of your day to do so. And we hope that you join us here tomorrow, because tomorrow we have a great show planned for you with Dariush Derekshani, which I believe we're going to be talking about, you know, any number of things about CGI and the like. And as I understand it, he has a couple of articles he wanted to really discuss. But Full show notes, always computeramerica.com, and you can check that out. Podcast form of the show, also at our website, and wherever podcasts are found, be it places like iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, iTunes, of course, Google Play. Check us out, Computer America. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.